Okay, pause for just a second. Right now, in this exact moment, as you're listening to my voice, what is your brain actually doing? Are you fully 100% focused on the words in front of you? Or is there a tiny part of your mind wandering off, maybe kind of wondering what you're going to have for dinner later? Well, that split-second awareness, your ability to just step back, observe, and evaluate your own internal thought process is an absolute superpower. So I've got to ask you, do you know what you know?
Welcome to this explainer on metacognition from animal minds to accelerated learning. I am so incredibly thrilled to have you here today. We are going to take a really fascinating, massive zoom-out journey together. We're starting all the way down at the micromechanics of how our own brains monitor themselves, and we'll travel all the way up to the macro frontier of human capability and accelerated learning. It is going to be an amazing ride.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap so you know exactly where we're headed. First up, thinking about thinking. Second, the animal mind. Third, social metacognition and health. Fourth, the accelerated learning framework. And finally, number 5, the future, neuroenhancement.
All right, kicking things off with section 1, thinking about thinking. So while a lot of the science and educational frameworks we're going to discuss today feel incredibly modern and cutting edge, the core concept itself actually has some deep ancient roots. I mean, writings exploring this exact phenomenon date all the way back to the Greek philosopher Aristotle, specifically in his works On the Soul and the Parva Naturalia. Humanity has literally been obsessed with its own mind for a very, very long time. Now, today, the formal term for this is metacognition. This term was brought into the modern psychological spotlight by an American developmental psychologist named John H. Flavel back in 1979. He defined it as an awareness of one's thought processes and an understanding of the patterns behind them. Put simply, it's thinking about thinking. And this brilliantly illustrates the brain's own internal solution to problem solving and monitoring learning. It's exactly like that moment you realize you're having way more trouble learning concept A than concept B, and you consciously decide, hey, I need to double-check my facts before moving forward.
To really grasp how you can use this, we kind of need to break metacognition down into 2 main components. First up is knowledge. This is what you know about yourself as a learner. It involves declarative knowledge, so knowing the actual facts, procedural knowledge, knowing how to do things using strategies and heuristics, and conditional knowledge, which is knowing when and why to even use those strategies in the first place. The second component is regulation. Think of this as your active control system, planning your approach, monitoring your comprehension as you go, and evaluating your final product. Now, why does this matter for you? Well, research shows that mastering both of these components allows you to allocate your mental resources effectively. It's basically what makes you a self-regulated learner who instantly grabs the right tool for the job.
Moving right along to section 2, the animal mind.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that if you assumed tracking memory and weighing internal confidence was a uniquely human trait, you are definitely in for a surprise. Let's zoom out to the animal kingdom for a second to see how metacognition manifests in nature. Just look at the sheer variety of species capable of internal monitoring. When chimpanzees were given information-seeking tasks where food was hidden in a container, they actively checked the container first before identifying it. But, and here's the kicker, if they already saw the food, they didn't even bother checking. They knew what they knew. Then look at rats. In a noise discrimination task, they were actually given the option to decline a test. As the difficulty of the test increased, the rats just declined it to get a smaller guaranteed reward, rather than risking getting absolutely nothing. They calculated their own uncertainty. And dogs? During a hidden reward test, if they didn't see where the bait was actually hidden, they checked around the fences significantly more frequently. They fully recognized their own lack of information.
However, self-awareness is not perfectly uniform across the whole animal kingdom. We can contrast the highly successful metacognition of rhesus macaques against the, let's say, debated success of pigeons. In token economy tasks, macaques proved totally capable of making high-risk bets when their memories were accurate and low-risk choices when they were uncertain. That shows a profound ability to monitor their performance. Pigeons, on the other hand, well, they show limited success. While they do sometimes choose escape options on difficult tests, researchers highly debate whether this is true metacognition or simply the pigeon learning a basic association just to avoid long delays. So the animal mind definitely has varying depths of awareness.
Which brings us to section 3, social metacognition and health.
Now, let's bring it back to humans for a bit. Metacognition isn't just about taking tests or solving puzzles. It extends way out into our social circles and deeply impacts our mental health and motivation. How we view our own abilities and how we interact with cultural norms literally shapes our reality. Let's compare 2 implicit theories of the self-concept. On the left here, we have entity theory.
This is the metacognitive belief that your self-attributes and abilities are completely fixed and stable. If you hold this view, you are highly susceptible to something called learned helplessness. When things go wrong, you just feel it's beyond your control, and you might give up easily. On the right, we have incrementalist theory. This is the belief that abilities are actually malleable and can be changed through effort. When an incrementalist fails, it prompts a mastery-oriented effort. They immediately step back and consider how they can approach the task differently. So, the beliefs you hold about your own thinking directly dictate your motivation.
This kind of internal monitoring also has massive implications in clinical settings. According to the source data, a lack of insight into one's own mental status can really compromise normal functioning. Enter metacognitive therapy. This is an approach used to correct what is called cognitive attentional syndrome, or CAS, which is basically an excessive focus on a perceived threat. Therapists use techniques like attention training, which assists patients dealing with conditions like schizophrenia or obsessive-compulsive spectrum disorders. The therapy operates on this really fascinating principle that the patient doesn't actually have to interpret intrusive thoughts as absolute truth. Instead, they're trained to weigh those thoughts merely as cues. It is an incredibly powerful method of stepping back and evaluating the reality of a thought rather than just blindly trusting it.
All right, let's shift gears to Section 4, Accelerated Learning Framework.
Let's transition from internal psychology to our external environments. We know how the brain regulates itself, right? So how do we actually structure a classroom or a workspace externally to enhance these cognitive skills? Well, the origins of this framework form an incredible grassroots mini-narrative. The Accelerated Learning Framework, or ALF, wasn't born in some high-rise corporate boardroom. No, it was created by a grade 6 teacher named Liz Anderson at Park Manor School in Ontario, Canada. She developed this model to provide a link between digitally rich environments and student achievement. It was first released to the public at an educational computing conference back in October 2011. And from there, this incredible localized idea just skyrocketed into published educational literature, appearing in Canadian researcher Michael Fullan's 2012 book, Stratosphere. So the crucial point is understanding how this framework actually functions day to day. It revolves around 3 key change drivers. Driver 1 places pedagogy and the moral imperatives squarely in the driver's seat. Driver 2 establishes technology not as a distraction, but as a completely non-threatening element of learning. But it's really the third driver that I want you to take away from this, creating the means for peer learning by minimizing judgment. The entire idea of this structure is to aggressively reduce the fear of judgment so that people are actually free to make mistakes, monitor those mistakes, and truly learn from one another. It's an environment built perfectly for metacognitive growth.
And finally, Section 5, the future, neuroenhancement.
To wrap things up, let's zoom all the way out to the very edge of human capability. We've explored the foundations, we've looked at the animal kingdom, and we checked out the classroom. Now we are going to neutrally examine the final frontier of cognitive optimization. Based entirely on our source data, neuroenhancement, which is also known as cognitive enhancement, is defined as the experimental use of pharmacological or non-pharmacological methods intended to improve cognitive and affective abilities in healthy people. To be clear, we are talking specifically about individuals who do not have any mental illness, utilizing agents or methods intended to produce cognitive, social, psychological, mood, or motor benefits that push their brains well beyond baseline normal functioning.
Which leaves us with this final, profound thought to bridge everything we have learned today. If metacognition is thinking about thinking and identifying ways to regulate and improve our own internal hardware, is artificially upgrading our minds through neuroenhancement the ultimate manifestation of that? When a completely healthy brain experiments on itself to push beyond normal functioning, where does simple self-awareness end and the future of human potential begin? I want you to really think about your own thinking today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking questions.